Omagyanatvinandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshornitanjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Guru Gaur Gandharva Govinda Linganaisa Vande Prashantu Yashan Sararamba Shubhankara. So we're continuing with Shri Shri Prapanna-jivanamrita with our friends here in Canberra. And yesterday we began this, or we were continuing, we're slowly moving through this chapter, Acceptance of the Favorable. So this book, just to give you a little overview, it is a treatise on Sharanagati, which means surrender. And Sharanagati, surrender, is described as having 6 main aspects, 6 main moods. And so in this book, our grandfather, Guru Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he has compiled many verses from the scriptures which are illuminating these different moods of surrender. And so now we are in this section, and this particular aspect of Sharanagati is known as Anukul Yasya Sankalpa, which means the principle to accept everything that is favorable for our devotional life and for the service of the Lord, to accept that into our lives. So yesterday we were going through some verses of Upadeshamrita, and now we'll continue. So we are in verse 6 of chapter 3. Yukta-vairagyam evanukulam. Only renunciation in devotion, yukta-vairagya, is favorable. And the verse here by Srila Vyasadeva: Yavatas yatsva nirvaha svikuryat tavat artavit adikya nyuna tayancha chavate paramartata. A person with genuine insight will accept only as much facility as needed to fulfill their personal necessity. Over or under acceptance of one's due measure may cause a fall from spiritual practices. So this principle of yukta-vairagya is very, very important for us. The word vairagya means renunciation, detachment. And the word yukta means like proper or properly adjusted renunciation. And this is very important, and this is something that was extremely emphasized by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his mission of the Gaudiya Math. And he had one magazine, the Gaudiya, which he would publish. I think it was a weekly or maybe a monthly, I don't remember. But on every single cover, he would print these 2 verses from Rupa Goswami from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, on this principle of yukta-vairagya, proper renunciation. And I don't know if I can remember. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjata nirbandha krishna sambandhe yukta-vairagyam uchate. Definition of yukta-vairagya: that personally one will remain detached from everything in this world. One will not perceive anything in terms of their own selfish, calculated interest. So within themselves they will be detached from their personal interest. But at the same time they will see everything in terms of the Lord's interest. They will see everything in terms of Krishna's interest. So they will see everything according to the higher absolute interest, not their own small finite interest. And so they will, and accordingly they will engage, they will utilize everything in this environment, but from that standpoint of using it in the higher interest. So in other words, we're not interested in artificial renunciation, not just seeing, the environment is full of so many reactionary things, so I'm just going to escape the environment, I'm going to sit in a cave somewhere, or whatever it may be. That, if I enjoy in this world, there are so many wonderful, enjoyable things in this world, but I see that if I go to enjoy them, then I have to pay something. Some consequence comes. So I'd rather just completely avoid everything, and go for akarma, for non-karma, strive for a position of naishkarmya, freedom from karma completely. So this principle is it's very important for us. It's like a guideline as to how we will try to engage with the environment. We will never just reject the environment, but see how it can be engaged, how it can be connected with the higher interest. Yes, if we go to use something, with a mood of exploitation, if we go to use something for our own, personal benefit, then there will be a reaction. But if we see something in terms of its higher connection, its higher relationship, and use it, engage with it, reciprocate with it accordingly, then there will be no negative reaction. Rather, we will all be uplifted in that transaction. And so Saraswati Thakur, he was quite revolutionary in how he, like when he, for the time, in terms of like people's stereotyped conception of what spiritual life meant, it was shocking what he did, Like he went into Vrindavan in a motor car, to us it doesn't seem like a very big deal, but that was shocking for the people of the time. You're going, you should go barefoot, walking, but he's coming in this grand motor car, that was shocking for them, because people were attached to their general, ideas of what it means to follow a spiritual life. So things like that. Even somebody found it hard to adjust that he had some of his disciples using a horse and cart in their preaching. Even that was surprising. That was difficult for some of them to accept. Even one of his own disciples made a comment like that we heard from Gurudev. He shared with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, I'm very unfortunate because I cannot understand my Guru, that I cannot understand that, Rup and Sanatan, they used to walk barefoot and sleep under trees and just wear a simple loincloth, but my Guru is sending us using a horse and cart. This is so grand. So even that, simplicity doesn't necessarily mean anything if it's not connected to a higher interest. So there's the term used, yukta-vairagya, markata-vairagya, means monkey renunciation. That somebody, like monkeys, they look like, apparently they're very, very simple, they're naked, they eat berries, they live in trees, but the male monkey's always thinking about the lady monkey, and the female monkey's always thinking about the male monkey. So their mind is in another place. So in the same way, people can artificially renounce the environment, but internally they're full of so many mundane desires. So rather we should not reject the environment, but learn how to properly engage with the environment. It is all about our consciousness, not what show we're putting on in the world. And another point is that, a significant point, and this is mentioned in the second of these two verses, which Saraswati Thakur would print on the cover of this magazine, is definition of falgu vairagya, false renunciation, that they're actually like practicing renunciation because they want to acquire some benefit for themselves. They want to become liberated from this world. They're just thinking about their own interest. So you're following all of these practices and these, strict and difficult austerities, but just because you're thinking about your own self, about your own elevation. But, we understand the real purpose of any spiritual practice is to awaken Krishna consciousness, to awaken God consciousness, should be for the purpose of pleasing the Lord. So if you're just engaging if a practice is actually like inhibiting the flow of service and dedication, then the practice should be abandoned. One should appreciate the higher principle. So like, for example, on the day of Ekadashi, which is coming up, it's on Thursday, right?
Thursday.
Normally, according to scripture, it's a day when we fast the whole day. And there's so many things told that if you follow this Ekadashi, you'll get this benefit and you'll get that benefit. And so many people, they follow these very strict practices, but they're just thinking about what they're going to get out of it. But the real idea is that we want to please the Lord. So Saraswati Thakur said, better we change the rule. The principle is more important than the rule. So he changed it to a half-day fast. Then we'll fast until noon, and then we'll take some simple prasad. Because otherwise, if we're completely fasting the whole day, we won't be able to do anything. We'll become incapacitated for seva. And Srila Saraswati Thakur, he wrote a verse. This was for a particular occasion when they opened this new temple in Calcutta, the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math, which became like a flagship temple for the mission in India. And they'd been using a rented house for some years. And then they were going to move everything to this new temple, very nice, grand, with some grandeur. And they had this huge procession throughout Calcutta carrying the deities. And Saraswati Thakur wrote this verse, this shloka for this occasion. How does it go? Vishaya. Matala sadhujana Vishaya range Pujala ragapata gorva bange, saying that the sadhus, they are madly engaged in using all the paraphernalia of this material world. This word he uses is vishai, and this word vishai is usually used in a negative context. It means like material things of like enjoyment in this world, material enjoyable things of this world, and normally it's seen as it has a very negative connotation. So Saraswati Thakur was like putting this kind of radical spin here, like the sadhus, like the saintly persons, and not just they're using it, but mata, it means like madly, in this like intoxicated type of way. They're using all the material things of this world, but in the service of the higher plane. Matala sadhujana vishaya range pujala ragapata, and doing puja to that higher, superior plane of simplicity, that land of Vrindavan. So like he was saying, like you're seeing, like, we're not afraid to use anything. There was someone who asked Saraswati Thakur, what do you think about technology? And he said, I think that only the devotees should use the modern technology. Because people have this stereotype that the sadhu goes and sits in a cave and meditates, But Saraswati Thakur said, I think that only the sadhus, only the devotees, they should use technology, because they will use it, for its real purpose, for some higher interest. So he was saying, you're seeing we're not afraid of the environment. We're not afraid of the material environment, but rather we are using it. We are engaging in. So everything, printing presses and cars and radio and beautiful temples and so on and so forth, beautiful people. We're using everything. We're not afraid of anything, but we're using it in the interest of the higher plane. And that same verse, Srila Gurudev, he made some adjustments because it's too radical, it's too shocking, and people just misunderstand it. So Gurudev made a small adjustment there. He changed Vishaya Range, which means engaging with all the material objects, to Kirtana Range. We are engaging in Kirtan. So more acceptable for the society at large. Matala Harijana Kirtana Range. Gurudev put that on the top of the entrance of our temple in Navadvip. So this principle is so, and Gurudev mentioned about that verse, that this is our principle, this is our bhajan, our practicing life, this is everything. It's very important. So we will accept, just what is required, for for our own maintenance, for our own upkeep, and for the service of the higher. Not more and not less. Over or under acceptance of one's due measure may cause a fall from spiritual practices. It's a very wide topic, right? Very wide topic. But you see, like, this is why we don't we don't live like the Goswamis of Vrindavan, everything's time, place, and circumstance, And one point Srila Sridhar Maharaj made is that the Rupa and Sanatan, they gave this principle of yukta-vairagya in the scriptures, in their writings. They like, according to scripture, they established this as an acceptable way, as the proper way to practice this principle of yukta. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj points out, they themselves didn't do it. They themselves lived under trees and drank buttermilk, But they put this principle and proved it through the scripture. This is acceptable. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj explained, they didn't do it themselves. They didn't go to engage everything themselves, because if they did, people would accuse them and say, "Oh, you want an excuse. You want an excuse to enjoy with everything in this world. So you're giving this principle of yukta-vairagya." So they established this as an acceptable thing, and then Saraswati Thakur took that up and actually applied it and put it into practice. Because on principle, the real devotee, they don't need anything, and internally, the real devotee, they'll be living like Rupa and Sanatan under the tree. They don't need anything, but only in the interest of seva, only in the interest of service will one go to practice like that. So that's one point. And then another point is that we couldn't live like that anyway. And so this principle of yukta-vairagya, it gives us some space to gradually become detached, Because if we were told, you need to go and live like this, we couldn't do it. Or you're going to just eat, rice porridge with no salt and no spice and stick sabji. We couldn't do it, we need we need some enjoyment, we need some flavor, we need some good taste. So this principle, it gives us some space, to gradually become detached, where we're given this consciousness that everything's for the interest of the Lord. And, we're cooking all these nice things, and we're thinking this is for the service of the Lord, or for the service of other devotees, for their satisfaction. And so this gradual transformation of our consciousness will take place. We couldn't immediately jump to that place, where we're totally detached from everything. We don't need anything. So from that perspective, it is also, it has its place. And we saw Srila Gurudev, in Navadvip, he made such nice facility for the devotees, because he knew it would be too much for us to, compared, you were there in the 80s, right? And you were sharing that the other day. But Gurudev, as soon as he had the opportunity, he was making these palatial marble, guest houses with ensuite bathrooms, and it changed, so much, But just for that reason, to make it, so that when people come, they're not struggling on the level of their body. They can just, feel comfortable and give more focus on their, conscious cultivation. So, yeah, very broad topic. And also along in the same subject matter, Srila Saraswati Thakur and Gurudev also. Srila Sridhar Maharaj's style was more like the Goswamis of Vrindavan. But Gurudev and Saraswati Thakur, they both had this mood in the line of this principle that things should be presented really nicely. Like, we're going to put on a good show, you know. And like Gurudev would tell devotees, like dress nicely. Like, Gurudev didn't like it if people went around like with ripped clothes and like looking like a mess and like we're so detached. You know, Gurudev would say he said who comes with me must dress nicely. You know, like we're trying to present things in a dignified way. You know, and I was just hearing yesterday, Srila Sridhar Maharaj was telling how Saraswati Thakur told him on several occasions that he needed to like smarten up, like dress better. Because Srila Sridhar Maharaj's mood was just so simple, you know. and he also, we heard from Gurudev of one occasion when Srila Sridhar Maharaj was preaching in one area, and they had some place they were renting, some nice place, and then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he got like a permanent place, but it was made out of thatch, but it was nice. But he sent this news to Saraswati Thakur, and Saraswati Thakur was unhappy, because just like hearing that it was made out of thatch, he thought it was going to be some really like, you know, humble looking abode, you know, and so he sent a telegram like cancel, how did he say, like cancel thatched house, resume old propaganda, so something like that, you know. He was like alarmed, like what are you doing, like we need to do things in a grand way, you know. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj said that, or maybe I heard this from Gurudev, that then later when Saraswati Thakur actually went there and saw it, he saw it was actually nice. It was made out of thatch, but it actually was really nice. So he accepted it. So, yeah, so, you know, in line with that, you know, like we're part of a mission, we're trying to internally we don't need anything, or we're trying to cultivate that mood. But for the purpose of like presenting this in a dignified way, in a way that people can like appreciate, then we want to do things nicely. Okay. So we can continue with the next. And I'm also remembering one. It's some phrase in the Bible, where it's some phrase, when the bridegroom is present, the wife is not required to fast. And there's one recording where some devotees, they ask Srila Sridhar Maharaj about this, like, what does this mean? This it's somewhere in the Bible, this expression, when the bridegroom is present and the wife is not required to fast. And this is actually, you know, in the Vedic culture, in the traditional Varnashram system, this idea is also there, actually. That like for example, on the day of Ekadashi, a married lady won't fast. You know, Mahaprabhu, he, you know, didn't like that whole culture, and he especially requested his mother, like, please follow Ekadashi. But this was like the traditional culture, that on the day of Ekadashi, married, because the idea is that the lady is supposed to serve her husband, and so what would normally be expected in regards to fasting, the married lady won't do that because she has to have all her energy to serve her husband. There's some idea like this. And then also it's mentioned how, I can't remember who brought it up, who mentioned it, but that there were some, then it was mentioned that there were some priests who were complaining that some of Jesus' followers, they weren't following some things properly. You know, they were like, you know, like they were just like following Jesus, and they weren't following so many traditional things properly. And so anyhow, Srila Sridhar Maharaj explained, and along these same lines, that 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 if we have some seva, if there's some service necessity, then that's the all-important thing. And all of these like stereotyped practices, they become secondary. But in the interest of service, we will do anything and everything, and we will disregard.
Does the husband serve his wife as well?
I mean,
why is there a gender bias?
Well, I'm not saying that's what we follow. That's not a Vaishnava conception, but that's like a stereotyped idea that would be in the social system of India.
But the social system of India or Krishna? Your beliefs, your God?
No, I'm saying we are followers of Vaishnavism. I'm saying that's not our conception, but I'm saying in the traditional system of India, like the stereotyped conception that would be,
their culture.
Yeah, their culture. But no, I mean, like our gurus totally reject that completely.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, no. Actually, there was one story. Was it Gaur Kishore Das Babaji? I think it was Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, and because normally in the Vedic culture, the wife will the wife will cook, and then the husband will offer that to the deity, and then the husband will eat. And then the wife will eat after the husband. She'll eat like the remnants. And so there was one incident when one of the gurus in our line, this is like maybe 150 years ago or something, somebody approached him and asked permission to marry. And he said you will cook and and offer to the deity. Then your wife will take prasad. Then you'll eat her remnants. You'll eat after her. Like don't think that your wife is your servant. But she's a devotee of Krishna, and you should serve her. Like that. From the Vaishnava conception, all of these like social cultural divisions, they are all rejected, because it is simply seen that we are all spirit soul, and we are all servants of God. So Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya, he was quite revolutionary in what he did in India at that time. Actually, like some people in India, or many persons in India, they see him as this social revolutionary, like some will call him a communist or a socialist, but we see him as far beyond any conception like that. But that's how some people identify him, because he was so radical in what he did. I mean, even him spreading the Maha Mantra throughout India, that was very radical, because normally these Vedic mantras, they're only they were only available to like few privileged persons. It wasn't considered that the general masses could have access to these mantras. So no, all of these things are rejected in the Vaishnava conception. This, the whole Varnashram system, the social system of India, it's all rejected in Vaishnavism.
People still kind of live within that, it's not like
Yeah, I mean, we employ some elements of it, I mean, like this, for example, this is an extra, like having this like dress, like following this order. This is an element of this Varnashram system, but we employ some elements of this, in the interest of a higher purpose, in the interest of progressive practice within a society. But we are not like a slave to these things. It's not that these things are all in all. But as they are helpful, we are employing some elements of them. Okay. Oh, just one more example. It was a incident on Janmashtami when Saraswati Thakur sent someone to Vrindavan. And so normally on Janmashtami it's a full day fast, right? But Saraswati Thakur told his cook to make rice, for this devotee, and everyone was very shocked by that. But his idea was that we have this general rule that you're supposed to fast, but you have this duty that you need to perform, and that requires some energy. So then it makes more sense to disregard the rule and follow this principle of being fit for service. So it is an important principle in our practicing lives. It's about being practical, being real, and understanding what is the real purpose of all these things and acting accordingly. Okay. We'll go on to the next verse. Tacha Krishna sambandhasyaiva pradanyam. Within renunciation and devotion, yukta-vairagya, or proper renunciation, the foremost principle is to see everything in relationship to Lord Krishna. And then this is a verse of Lord Uddhava. Tayopa bhukta shagandha vasolankar charchitaha uchishta bojino dasas tava mayam jayimahi. Adorned with the articles that have been offered to you, such as garlands, fragrant clothing, and ornaments, we, your personal servitors who partake of your holy remnants alone, will certainly be able to conquer your illusory energy. So this principle of prasad, living in that consciousness of seeing everything as connected with the Lord, everything is coming from the Lord as His prasad, as His grace. Here it's mentioned in a direct way. Your garlands, clothing, etc. But this is in a general sense. This is something we aspire to live, in this type of consciousness. And in that consciousness, tava mayam jayemahi, we will conquer over the illusory energy. Sarvata harismriti rakshanam eva tat paryam. The fundamental objective is to maintain constant remembrance of Sri Hari in every time, place, and circumstance. Alabde va vinashte va bhaksha charana sadhane aviklava matir bhutva harim eva diyasmaret. If persons engaged in the devotional service of Lord Hari are unable to obtain food and shelter despite their attempts, or if their acquisitions are lost or destroyed, they should, without anxiety, absorb their hearts deeply in the thought of Lord Hari. And this verse is very nice. Having these material bodies and material needs, then we have some duty to try to take care of them, to maintain our upkeep. However, that's not the goal of life. Ultimately, the goal of life is in Krishna consciousness, is seva, Hari Guru Vaishnav. So we have some duty on this relative plane. However, if despite our attempts to fulfill that duty to take care of our material existence, we're unsuccessful, we should not become absorbed in lamentation about that. We did our job to try to take care of that, but it's not working, and it's not the ultimate goal of life. So then we must simply absorb ourselves in remembrance of the Lord and dependence upon His mercy.
That would be hard for a homeless person that has nothing. You'd have to really believe in your God, wouldn't you?
Yes. Yes.
Because we all sit in privilege, and I often wonder what would that be like when I've seen people. You must have so much faith if everything's taken from you.
Yeah.
You know, your health, your home. There's been a flood, there's been a disaster, everything you know is taken.
Yeah.
Far out, that's one big faith to have.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I often wonder how you would be. It'd test your faith, wouldn't it?
We're
We're sitting here in a good spot, aren't we? Privileged. Blessed. Taken care of.
I don't know, your
What
parking ticket, something. You know. Test you out. But it's, I mean, there was
on
this...
a simple level, but some people, I'm being serious, some
Yeah,
people
yeah.
nothing, and it all gets taken.
Yeah.
And I work with the dying. So there's your true faith, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
when I see your test of what you believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it takes that for people to look for some belief,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah.
Like you don't really come to that till you have a disaster sometimes.
Sometimes
Yeah.
people need to be brought to their knees, don't
Yeah.
they?
Or
And each
they don't need to be, but that's somehow, you know, that can happen, and
it can be a conduit to what they
that's
believe.
what's happening
For
for them.
each person's
They may or
own.
may not reach that from
No,
that experience.
and that's okay because everyone's on their own path to their God or whatever their beliefs are. So I respect that.
Mm.
But I just think it's an interesting thing when I see it growing up with the Catholic system. I see the parallels to Krishna consciousness now. That my family would just have blind faith. They totally handed it over. It got them through. You know, got them through. But I often wonder what it would be to be a person that has everything taken. And I mean, you know, a major disaster, genocide, your family are all murdered, you're left. So that really would bring you to your faith.
It might make you lose your faith for some people.
For some people, yeah.
It's
It's
no
interesting.
generalisation.
Because it's
Thank
easy.
you.
It's easy to have faith if we're comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, hand it up. I'm being fed, got a house, people look after me. Life's cruisy. I get a parking ticket. I have a few little problems, but they're first world problems. What about the people that have everything stripped bare? I just find it that would require faith beyond what some people know.
Yeah.
To hand that over, hand that up, whatever. Over, up, to. Yeah. Interesting.
Then riches could be quite challenging too, you know. Like if you became vastly wealthy and powerful.
Flip side of the same coin,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Same thing.
It's the thing of being overwhelmed, I guess, you know. But, then they had that big tsunami, I think it was, and it's amazing. They interviewed these people, I think it was in Myanmar, and they had lost everything. They'd lost their village, and this young girl, brothers, they'd lost their family, and they were just sitting in a bit of a raised thatch, a whole bunch of them, and that was it. That's all they had. They didn't have food to speak of or anything.
Yeah.
But they had this amazing sort of, it was just like you could see it coming out of them. It was this sort of, it's hard quality to find. It was sort of like a love, like a glow, like a beauty, but nothing forced or, it was just there.
Yeah.
And they had it, because whatever they did have left was
I remember
something.
when I was travelling in Varanasi, I was just going through one of these little narrow streets, and I just was going to go through a little turnstile type entrance to somewhere, and I looked down, and there was this person with no limbs whatsoever, and just on a little skateboard, a little wheelie skateboard,
Too, yeah.
and he looked up at me, and I looked down, and we met eyes, and I just like this little laugh just filled me. I was like, oh my goodness, because I was feeling, I felt this real sort of like, real worry for this being, and concern, and then I just looked up and thought, oh no, I'm the one that needs concern, because he was just this glow of love, and I went, oh wow, and I went past, and I was just shocked, because it was such a shock for me to think that this person is suffering, and I should be feeling pity, and then I just felt this love, and that person giving me something. So really, physical conditions, they're just
absolutely.
really.
I'm not coming from a place where those people need pity. I'm just saying, in your teachings, because I'm not a Krishna, your teachings, they must have the most people that have a strong faith in a God, whatever God that is, whatever. That must be something that gets them through, and I've seen that with people that are dying. They've got something to hand it over to, so it's taken out of their hands.
What you find within, like I don't see this without.
Well, my Buddhist stuff's more within and interconnected. It's not handing it up to an entity, but and I just go, wow,
within and without.
Whoa, that's some love, isn't it? That's
God. There's also, I think in Buddhism also, there's also recognition of personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
So it's not that we're just victims, but there's responsibility behind everything.
Be aware of your actions, reactions, all of it. Definitely. But I do often think of folk that have had everything stripped back, and to be mindful of that as well when I sit in my privilege. Even when, you have the stuff like your own diseases, your own near-death experiences, I'm still privileged compared to the vast majority of the world.
The thing is, it depends what you define as privilege, we're, we have like our ways of seeing things, but we're allowed to break out of the box and really like define what does that actually mean, if you had to choose to being some guy, who has everything in this world, but is actually in a state of deep ignorance, as opposed to being one of these people living on the street in Calcutta.
I'd be the street
You know what
person.
I mean?
I totally know what you're saying,
So just, what is real privilege, what is real success,
I mean having an awareness of what you have. Like that person that's ignorant, they don't have that deep awareness, do they? But if you're living every day, and every day you're grateful for the food you have.
Sure.
You're grateful that I'm not going to be homeless unless something unforeseen happens. Really knowing every day that the simple things are the privilege. That I could drive here, that I can sit here, that I can be with people I care about. They're the privileges I'm speaking of, not big, crazy privilege. But knowing your privilege, that's the difference, isn't it? So I suppose, you're right. I know what you mean. Definition of privilege, what is that? That's my definition, I suppose, that I breathe every day and that I get to love people and serve. That's privilege. For me, that's privilege.
But we believe that God is always with us, and even if we didn't have those things, then is God not with us? Is God's mercy not with us?
Yeah, no, that's your beliefs.
We're engaged in a culture of faith, so and it's not just what we're reading, but that's genuinely
what's in your heart.
So
it's beautiful.
But then also it's extraordinary when you hear stories of people who have all those things taken away and they survive,
They do, more often than not.
But I can also say, this verse here, it's kind of giving a general idea of just difficulty. It's giving extreme examples here. but you know, and the various difficulties that we face.
I read an article the other day. It was by this guy, Aleksandr, and he works in rehab, you know, and dealing with addictions and working with people. And he's very good. He was writing about how come all these people, like say, you know, people like me who are comfortable, you know, Western, you know, why is there such a big crisis amongst these kind of people? You know, they're not pressed, they're not, you know, and sure, you know, it happens.
You're saying they're not fulfilled.
Yeah, and he said it's like an existential kind of crisis, you know, and he said, and he, you know, and then he sort of went a bit further and he said, well, you know, these people who are kind of in a more pressed situation are often okay because, you know, somehow it brings out the qualities in them that you know, it brings out a strength in them, whereas this person that's, you know, not challenged and in any way has lost his sort of connection with the whole somehow, and you know, with each other, you know, during wartime or something, everyone gets, oh right, let's go, you know, that kind of thing. So it was interesting, you know, he really kind of drew that out.
Yeah, there's this really
human condition, isn't it? Since time immemorial.
Yeah, there's a really wonderful, well, it's a famous speech given by a Russian like thinker, philosopher, writer, Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn. You've heard of him.
Yeah.
And he gave that talk at Harvard and just like smashed the whole like consumer culture in America. And like he's coming from, you know, he was escaping from what was it? Was it Hitler's regime or
Stalin?
No, Stalin. Yeah, Stalin.
The gulags.
And thinking he'd find like a refuge. He was saying, actually, what's going on here is worse, you know, because of that, you know, here you're too comfortable, you know. Now there's this like moral weakness that's you know prevalent, you know. But in that difficulty that person's faced, that's what really like, you know, builds character and brings out these qualities. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a complex.
Yes, yeah, you can't. It's not easy. You can't just pigeonhole it.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are in life. There's challenge, sort of thing, or you know.
Yeah.
It's
suffering takes place on different levels.
Yeah, really rich people, you know, who've got everything, commit suicide, or you know, those things. You know, just you can't pick it. You can't kind of.
It's a human condition, suffering. Isn't it? And awareness and layers of, and we're all at different places and stages of that.
Yeah.
So it's very complex, as you said. There's not just a blanket, this is the way it is there?
Yeah.
When there's humans and there's minds and ego and all those different things, there's a big soup of complexity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can only speak from your own lived experience, can't you? And having seen people brought to their knees, sometimes you see something come that's from a place that's in all of us, but you get to see it outwardly, and it's quite a beautiful thing to witness.
And I think that comes up for me around when you say something like that. I think of my own life as well. You know, like having an experience where you feel more vulnerable, especially around your health, and you think, well, what have I done? I've we wait till we get those experiences before we take any action to turn to our spiritual life. You know, we think, well, what I've wasted all that time. And so it makes it the wake-up calls, you know, because you think, well, if that at the end, when I do get the scare, if that's what means something to me, well, why am I not looking at those things more often? When I'm in my everyday sort of wellness, sense of like I'm okay, everything's fine, my life's going to go on forever, you know?
Totally.
And so I sort of think, wow, okay, get on with it. Get on with it now rather than waiting. You know? So and you know, so I suppose you can see it as like that misfortune can be seen from
it's fortune.
As something as a fortune on some level. You know. Wouldn't ask for it if it was choice, but
no, just saying.
But it does have its own, and I think when Sudarshan came through. I think that was such a beautiful, something he said when he gave a talk here in the room outside. He said, and it really meant something to me, because he said, you have to recognise that, like in this life, everything is just waves of energy. We know everything's waves and moving. And he said, and you've got to recognise that all those waves of energy are coming from whatever's created this, all it's coming from whatever God or Krishna or whatever you like to call it, and that all of that is for your good. It's all waves of good coming towards you. And when you try to perceive everything like that, then it makes more sense. And I thought, wow, that's such a beautiful way of looking at life. Like that everything essentially is, if we see everything as one or coming from that unity or sense of higher, then it is that its purpose is for our good, then everything that's happening is can be put into that. And there's just really a heart sort of opening and healing for me, I think, hearing that. Beautiful. Waves of goodness coming and to perceive it all as that. That's not so easy sometimes, yeah. Beautiful.
Well, that principle is in the next verse.
Oh, is it?
It's Sudarshan's favourite verse.
Okay,
he always talks about it.
Have you got time to read it today?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We can
Honour of
discuss it.
Sudarshan.
Sarvacha tad anukampa darshana eva tat siddhi. This is accomplished only when one can see the grace of the Supreme Lord in every situation. Tat tenu kampam susamikshāmano bunjane vadma kritam vipakam vidvagva purbir vidadanamaste jiveta yo mukti pade sat dayabhak. One who, in the hope of achieving your grace, goes on enduring the inauspicious fruit of his own karma, and passes their days practicing devotion unto you in every thought, word, and deed. Such a person is heir to the land of freedom. He attains to the plane of positive immortality. So these two principles here, one of recognizing personal responsibility, and then on the other hand to see that the Lord's grace is behind that, that, as you said, there's a wave of goodness behind that, coming to help us, to adjust us in some way.
Yeah, for me it's not a far off thing. It's not sense of something, if I do this now I'm going to achieve that. It's like this sense of, it allows me to just be at peace with what is. It's just that sense of, okay, this is what is, that's okay. For some reason I can't see maybe, but it is, I know essentially it's good, and that's enough for me to know that. So that's it's very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, Srila Sridhar Maharaj actually described that verse as the highest regulation given in any scripture, that principle of seeking goodness, in everything, whatever is coming. Okay, well, we'll stop there. Jai Shri Prapanna-jivanamrita ki jai. Shri Gurudev ki jai. Prapanna ki jai. Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhara Govinda Sundar Ji ki jai. Shri Harinam Singh ki jai. Gaur Premanand.